Hey everyone, my name's Jamie. I'm the University of Manchester Physiotherapist, and today I'm going to be putting on a back care at home session as part of the Stay In Workout campaign. Hopefully today will give you some tips, some knowledge to help relieve or prevent any back pain you may be having. Equipment wise and space wise, I'm going to keep it quite simple and easy. Obviously in the current situation, I'm going to be able to do it at home with very minimal equipment. And in fact, the only equipment you need, if any really, would be a mat, a chair, a foam roller if you have one, a small ball similar to this. This is called a peanut, but I'll explain how you can make one of these yourself if you've not got one. And really that's all you need. So a foam roller, for those that don't know, is literally a roll of foam that you can use to kind of self-massage muscles. If you have got one, that's great, but there are other ways of doing these exercises and these things without that. A peanut, which is one of these, literally can be made by gaffer taping or sellotaping two balls, two tennis balls, or similar together to form that shape. And I'll explain how to use that later. Okay, before we start, just want to make you aware that if you do get pain during or after any of these exercises, to stop or not to do them again. Obviously, this isn't. We'll have had no full assessment or further detail about your back pain. So yeah, definitely err on the side of caution if you are feeling it. And obviously, by no means will these exercises 100% clear up back pain, but may help hopefully, especially with not being able to go out and kind of see anybody else or get anything else. Ideally, you would be looked at by a professional, and obviously kind of pathway of treatment recommended after that, but hopefully this will help you a little bit today. So all we're going to do is look at 4 areas. We're going to do a few stretches, some soft tissue manipulation techniques, some muscle switch-ons, and some mobility techniques, which will hopefully relieve some of those issues you may be having or may be going down the path towards getting. So we'll start with some stretching now. Very simple. We're going to start at the top of the back and work our way down. So to stretch the neck, all you need to do, and this can be done in standing, kneeling, sitting, however you want to do it, you're just going to take your head to the side and add a little bit of rotation to that side. And as soon as you do that, you should feel a nice stretch down the opposite side of the neck. You can add a little bit of pressure if you need to, carefully with the opposite hand. And you can vary the degree that you go of those two movements. So you could put a small degree of side bend on, more rotation, which will kind of stretch a different portion of that muscle, or you can go quite a lot of side bend and a little bit of rotation, which again will stretch different portions. To be honest, I'd play about with that to feel what works best for you. That would be done right side and left side. Ideally, any stretch would be held for about 20 seconds. And you can maybe do that a few times, 3 times, or little and often throughout the day. Okay, the next stretch is your quadratus lumborum, or QL, which is a muscle that sits in the side down here. There's several ways of doing this. If you've got a Swiss ball, like a gym ball, or one of the large blow-up balls, you can use that. But how I tend to do it is go into kind of like a side-on lunge, arm onto the front leg, bring the opposite arm over, and just bring the fingertips or that arms out away from your body and side lean at the same time. And you should feel a nice stretch. If it's not here specifically, you'll feel it all the way up. Again, 20 seconds minimum, several times, whether you do it together or throughout the day, that's fine. Sage pose, which is an adapted yoga pose. On the floor, cross legs, and then lean on that knee with your opposite arm and just rotate and hold. And that will be felt all the way down that side of the body. You may feel it higher up, you may feel it in the middle, you may actually feel it lower down in the glutes, all of which will be helpful. Some of you might be tighter than others, so don't go too far. Make sure you feel the stretch, come back off it a little bit if you need to. At no point should it be painful, although you will feel the stretch. And the last one is a more of a nerve stretch. Nerves can be involved in back pain for several reasons. Again, to reiterate, this wouldn't be done if you had any history of disc pain or nerve-related issues. This is more of a nerve mobilization technique, so be careful with this. This is where you need your chair. Ideally, your legs would be off the floor, but for the purpose of this, mine will just be on the floor. You want to raise one leg, put your hands behind your back, put your chin on your chest and roll down so you're really slumping, and then bring your toes up to you. At that point, you'll feel a real tightness or sensation down the back of the leg, potentially in the back, mid or upper. Once you've hit that point, hold for a few seconds, let that leg swing, and do exactly the same with the other. Bring your toes up, hold for a few seconds, drop to the floor, and it's just a reciprocal motion. Ideally, you would do 10 to 20 on each leg, again, possibly 3 times round. Be very careful again with that one, but you'll feel either tightness in here, or lower down in here, and it's a way of potentially just mobilising that nerve and relieving a little bit of tension, which is useful. So that's the stretching part of this session. The next bit will be soft tissue manipulation, which basically means self-massage. So the items we need for this are the roller, the ball, and the peanut, all of which we discussed. So I haven't a roller to show you, unfortunately. That's in lockdown at the university, but I'll run through that quickly in the areas that I would advise you rolling. So the areas that I would advise would be the quad, the front, the inside, and the outside. The iliotibial band, which runs down the side from hip to knee. The hamstring at the back, and potentially the calf as well. And all you would do is put pressure on the roller through those areas that I showed you. So to do the quad, if you imagine the rollers on the floor here, you would place yourself on the roller, roll forwards and backwards. To get the inside, you would slightly bias your body to allow that roller to exert more pressure here. Similarly, the opposite and the outside for the outside of the quad. The iliotibial band would just be on the side, again, using your other arm to help roll forwards and backwards. So in here, and the hamstring placed directly under the hamstring here, and again, just rolling on that roller forwards and backwards. The ball, which is a great bit of kit. Now this can be a tennis ball, a lacrosse ball, a cricket ball, hockey ball, or one of the purpose sports physio balls. This really is best for those smaller areas that the roller can't get into. So the glute is an ideal place to use this. That can be done on the floor or up against the wall. All you need to do is, if you find the bony arc of your pelvis and then just drop down, start by putting the ball in there, press up against the wall, feel that pressure, and it will be uncomfortable, and just gently roll round. Once you've done 20 to 30 seconds, just move back a little bit, and just keep doing that until you've hit the more bony part at the back. Like I said, it can be done on the floor, and it's literally a case of sitting on that ball, letting the pressure do its job, and just rolling around. Will be uncomfortable, but you get quite a lot of value for that. And the peanut, whether it be bought or homemade, again, similar principle, but for the lower back. So this will be placed either side of the spine, on the floor or up against the wall. Exert that pressure through the lower back and just roll. And that will affect the muscles either side of the spine. And these are normally the muscles that become quite spasmed and sore within any back pain episode. So that's the kind of 3 main soft tissue manipulation areas to be working on. Muscle switch on. Next section is to, now we've released and stretched those muscles, we want to turn on other muscles better and more efficiently. So the first exercise we call a Superman, as you'll see in a minute. You'll definitely see why. On all fours, just make sure that your back is in neutral, so no excessive arcing or the opposite. And all you're going to do is, just to begin with, just slide your leg back and slide it forward, and you're trying to maintain that neutral posture. So what I don't want to happen is that kind of movement there. I want you to maintain that and slide out and bring the leg forward. If you're able to do that and maintain that posture, then you can start lifting the leg up and back down, again maintaining that posture, no higher than 90 degrees, so just perpendicular to the floor. And once you're able to control that, which might not be on day one, this might be down the line, you can add an arm lift as well where we would take the opposite arm and opposite leg forwards and backwards. In terms of numbers, maybe 3 sets of 8 would be useful for that, but this is all about control. It's not about the number you can do. It's about how you can control that lower back. Next exercise is well, the next 2 are core exercises, but probably not as you know them. So generally people view core exercises as tough, abdominal sit-ups and crunches, etc. Not necessarily the best things to do if you've got back pain. So these are just to turn on deeper muscles to try and give some core support. So the first is for a muscle called transabs, which sits really deep to the kind of common 6-pack area. The best way to do this is actually on your back, but for the purpose of the video, I'm going to do it on my knees. You want to feel your bony, 2 bony points at the front of the pelvis. Come in an inch and up an inch until you hit that kind of soft tissue just around the outside of the kind of abdominal area, and then just press and let your fingers drop into there and let them go as deep as you can until you hit that deeper transab muscle. Now the idea is to know if you're on it is to make it fire up. Now this is where it becomes a little bit more difficult. So the way to feel that is to feel your fingers being drawn in centrally towards the belly button, not at a great distance, just the idea of them being drawn in. What you don't want to feel is the fingers being pushed out. So the best way to do that is to imagine these bones have a wire between them, and then feel or almost in your head envisage that wire tightening up. At the same time, draw the belly button back to the spine, and once you do that, if you're doing it right, you should just feel a small pull of the fingers centrally. Don't worry if you don't get it straight away. It takes a bit of time to get, but once you've got it, it is a really useful exercise. Taking that on a stage, engaging similar muscles in the back called your deep multifidus. These muscles sit underneath these big muscles that we spoke about, often being quite spasmed and central to back pain issues. If we could remove them and take them away, the little deep multifidus muscles would sit underneath those. And it's the same principle really. You want to feel the spine, or one of the bony spinous processes, the bottom 5 ideally, but just when you're having a go, just any of the bottom ones would be useful. Roll off just into that gutter between the muscle and the spinous process. And again, if you imagine this time the 2 bony bits on the back being pulled in with a wire or tightening up that wire between them, you should just be able to feel a very small pressure underneath your thumb. Now, it shouldn't be coming from the big muscle here, which is very easy to feel and very easy to turn on. It should just be deeper to that. Again, it might be difficult to do, but it's something to try to focus on and hopefully get better at if you can. And the last one is an upper back exercise, and it's to engage muscles at the front of the neck. Often we get tight down the back of the neck here. We've all had that at some point, I'm guessing. Now, the best thing to use for this is a chair against the wall. Ideally, you wouldn't have this much distance away from the wall, so I'm going to just do it in kind of kneeling up against the wall here. So you want contact with the wall through the back, the shoulders, and the head and neck. And all you need to do is tuck your chin in without the head coming off the wall. So it's a very small movement. So you're tucking your chin, but keeping the head against the wall. So it's almost an elliptical movement. Tuck and slide. So you're sliding up and down the wall, but maintaining the back against the wall at the same time. Again, 3 sets of 8, 3 sets of 10, and that might be a useful one. Useful also to do at work when you're in your chair. Last section for today is some mobility techniques. So these are exercises just to get some movement in and around that area, and hopefully pain-free movement, which can often undo that vicious circle of back pain. So we're going to just do some pelvic mobilizations, which is the around the lower back and the pelvis here. So on all fours. On all fours, to start with, all you're going to do is just tip the pelvis or tilt the pelvis forwards and backwards. So you can see it's going forwards and back. If you imagine the pelvis as a bowl and you're tipping water out of the front and then tipping water out of the back. So forwards and backwards. There's no particular limit on this. Obviously, you wouldn't want to do too many, potentially anything between 20 or 30 at a time. That can be done in standing as well, where you're just tipping it, tilting it forwards and backwards, or indeed in sitting. A stage on from that would be side bend. So again, the same setup, and the side bend is just tilting to the right and then the left. So in standing, that would look like that. Very small movement, but it allows movement that might be otherwise restricted to happen around the pelvis. And the last variation of those is a figure of 8. So it's kind of a combination between the two. It's a side bend and a forward and backwards tilt. This sometimes is easier to be done on a chair or on a Swiss ball, because you can feel the chair, and it gives you a kind of a clue of where you are with your movement. And if you imagine you're sat on an 8, a number 8, and just trace that 8 with your pelvis. Okay. The next thing is called a dissociation. Basically, that just means moving one part of the body without another part moving, and being able to control separate movements. So we're going to go back to our pelvic tilt, our forwards and backwards. And what we want to happen, or what we don't want to happen, is have any movement higher up the back. So just start by just getting into that habit of nice smooth forward tilt and backwards tilt. And then once you've got that, just maybe take one hand off your pelvis and place it on your chest, and just see if that's moving. What you might find is as you tilt, that chest is being extending and flexing, and that's what you want to be able to limit. So if you find it hard to, just tilt a little bit less, just until that movement is stopped or lessened, and then increase as necessary. The reverse of that would be to move this and not to allow any movement here. So the best way to perform that movement here is to take your sternum up to the top of the wall. So up and back. So you're taking it up and drawing it back. Once you've got that going, monitor what happens here. And if you find that pelvis is going with it and you're moving as one, again, just focus your attention around that movement. Maybe bring it back in a little bit, not as big a movement, and try and control what happens here. Again, it's difficult to get sometimes to start with, but once you've got it, it's again a useful exercise to use. And one of the last ones for today is concentrating on the middle region, or the thoracic region of the back. For this, you don't have to, but the use of a chair is useful. If you take your chair and sit on it the wrong way around, cross your hands over your chest so that hands are on shoulders, and it's just a case of rotating. Now you can rotate to the end of your range and hold, or you can rotate side to side. You might find you have a stiffer side. You might find that you're able to rotate further one way than the other. In that case, I'd probably work on the side that has less movement, and again, kind of 10, 20 repetitions of that. Repetitions and sets aren't as important with exercises like this, so it's just a case of consistently working into that stiffness. And the last thoracic mobility exercise for here, again, use of the chair is needed. And if you just sit on the floor or place your back on the chair, and all you're doing is just allowing a little bit of extension and almost just relaxing and sitting in. You may find that you get some clicks and little noises going on. That's okay. Again, as long as it's not painful, and you can almost just work up or down the spine. So just extend and relax into that. Take it back a section, and you're almost working on each individual vertebrae. That can also be done on the roller on the floor, where you just open yourself up and lie on the roller. But whichever method works best for you is probably the best. So that's all for now. See how that goes. Don't do anything if it's painful. Hopefully it will help alleviate or prevent any back pain from happening. And potentially there'll be some more sessions along the way. Other than that, stay safe. See you soon.